it's time again to start another painting. I've got a picture here of a honeybee I'm going to try to paint. Mainly because I've never painted a bee of any kind. I'm just going to give it a try. And I've got a little bit of a rough sketch here to start with, but the first thing I'm going to do is just try to get some of that green in the background. So let's start there. All right, on the palette, I'm going to start with light yellow. I've got phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, vermilion, and white gesso. That is where I'm going to start. I don't know that that's going to be where all I use, but I'm going to start there. And to start with, I just need to get that spring green, which I know is going to be a lot of yellow, and probably a little bit of this phthalo blue. That phthalo tends to make it a lot more vivid, but I'm going to get some ultramarine blue in there as well, and that's a pretty good green right there. Now I want the background of this picture to be a little more subdued and maybe a little more abstract than what the photo is. So that's pretty close. And I know I didn't make enough paint, but I want some variation of color here. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and make another pile next to it here that's darker. And I'll put a little bit of that vermilion in there. That looks crazy, but that is going to tone that green down nicely. And since I'm going to use some of that in the bee itself, it's good to go ahead and get some of that color in there. Okay, that gives me two shades to start with. I think I'll just start there and kind of mix the rest on the canvas as I go. Okay, and it'll probably take a couple of coats of this, but I know I want it kind of darker towards the corners. And start up there. Let that darker color be in the corner. Kind of comes down. I know I'm covering up my sketch. I shouldn't have put that on there to start with anyway. I'll have to do that again. Some darker areas here and there. Like I said, it's probably going to take a couple coats. I'm just going to work quick and come back with that lighter stuff. Let that kind of blend with it. And I'm going to loosely use this photo, and I'll make this photo available in the description if you want to get that. Put a little more white with that. A little bit of that gesso in there on that lighter green. I think that'll help a lot. Maybe come back in with some yellow in spots. Just want a variation of these greens, and that background is going to be very, kind of fuzzy, faded, and I want it to be even more so. And I know I'm going to have a flower and a bee and everything here in the middle, but I'll just put that. I'll paint over all of this and start with getting it green. And I'm okay with these brush strokes as well for now. Like I said, it's going to take another coat, so that'll blend some of those out. All right, I think I'm going to dry that and start on my second coat. All right, on the second coat, I'm going to get my colors a little closer to what I wanted them. I know I want that dark to be nice and dark, but I want it to be a little more, a little less vivid, because I'm going to make it kind of fade into the background a little more, hopefully. Let's see if I can get a lighter version of that. Just kind of blend some of that on the canvas. That first layer was very different, but it's hard to get your colors right on a white background. It's easier when you have something behind there, and you can kind of slowly change the color to what you want. I always want to put at least 2 coats on the canvas when I first start anyway, of something that has some gesso in it that can be a good base to paint on top of. Get back dark in this corner. I really don't want it to be nice and smooth. I kind of want some choppy. I want it to be soft. I don't want any hard edges, but I'd like for it to be a good variation of the colors. Get a little bit more of this yellow while it's wet. Maybe even almost straight yellow in some of these spots. Towards the middle especially. Okay. That very center I don't care too much about. I'm going to be painting over that real soon. Nice. Got some brush strokes, got some variation of colors. Keeping my darks towards the corner. A couple of darker spots. Alright. That was quick and easy. Make a green mess. Alright. Now I'm gonna put my little loose sketch back in real quick. Okay, I made a mess on my palette already here, but that's okay. I think I want to start next with this this background flower that's kind of got some purple in it, and you can see I've got some pencil marks on here where I kind of traced that, but I added a color, magenta. This is quinacridone magenta to my palette. I know I'm going to be needing that to get that really violet color. I'm going to start with that and some phthalo blue. That's a lot of phthalo blue. Let's get some more of that magenta in there. It's going to give me a pretty bright purple. I'm going to get some of that out of my brush. Those are some powerful colors. That phthalo blue and that magenta are very strong. Come out here with some white and bring a little bit of that in at a time. And if I started adding the white to this, I'm gonna cover up my whole palette trying to make that light enough. I want to get somewhere in that middle ground there. And that's pretty, I think pretty close. May want to go a little bit more towards the magenta. Yeah, I think I like that. Right, let's start with that. Kind of block some of this background flower in. Again, I want this to be pretty fuzzy, pretty faded out. I don't know how well you can see that that little, I don't know if you even call it a sketch, just threw some lines in there, and I'm just basically laid my image on there and kind of trace the outline of where that flower is going to be. But like I said, I don't care if I'm not exactly, painting that picture. This is it's a really blurred out kind of flower back here that this bee is sitting on, and I don't have to have it exactly like that one. I can have kind of anything. It's really so blurred out you really can't tell what it is. I'm just going to kind of paint some petals in here, somewhat stay within my boundaries, just so that I know when I do the bee, I will want it to be in the right spot. And right now I'm just kind of throwing some of this violet color in here, and because I mainly want to see what it looks like when it dries. And it's going to have a lot of white in with it as well, or a lighter shade of this anyway in here as well. I want this to be really loose, really almost abstract. Some of this will be covered up, of course, with the bee and other things. There's one kind of petal that's sort of dominant down here at the bottom. I'll try to do it justice at least. It gets a little darker under the bottom of it. Darker streaks here and there. I mean, if you see this blob of purple and you see a bee sitting on it, you're gonna know it's a flower. So you don't have to have this exactly, like the photo. I'm mainly worried about getting some of this color in there. This color is pretty important to the overall picture. Some of these darker shades. Go even darker on a few places here. Let's see. I like that darker shade a little more up in here. Then I'm going to go back with a much lighter version of that and kind of fill in the rest of this sketch. There's a lot of light that almost looks white. A lot of white on parts of this, and that's okay. I like how it's got a lot of sunshine going on in there. Just going to kind of work quickly. And most of this side is in the sun, and it's going to be pretty bright. And of course, some of this is going to be covered up by our honeybee. That's all bee right there, I believe. But I think some of this comes down here. I think most of this right in here is the bee. I'm kind of put a base coat under that anyway, so. Some of this is just where the light is on the top side of these leaves. Okay. Before that dries, wash and dry that brush and kind of blend some of this a little bit. The edges of it sort of need to be fuzzy. It needs to be kind of blurred out in the distance. Now I won't be able to get all of that blurriness like the photo. I don't really care to, as long as it's mostly abstract. When I do the bee, it'll have a lot more clean lines and sharp edges to it, and it'll make this look fuzzier. But I can do my part now to make it soft at least. I don't mind that edge kind of disappearing a little bit. Got to clean this brush off. I want to use it to kind of soften some of that out a little. Don't really want these hard edges. Trying to tell myself to loosen up a little bit. Stop trying to be so perfect with it every time. Might even come back with a clean dry brush and kind of come around a little on those edges. Soften them up even more. May have to get a little moisture in that brush, just a little. I think if I can get the edges to be kind of blurry, and then maybe come back and paint the inside part a little bit more, that'll help. A little cleaner. I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. Soften these edges up. So then when I come back with some cleaner lines on the inner part of it, it's okay that the outside is blurry. Let me get some more paint. Get a little different color here. At some point when you're doing stuff like this, you just kind of quit looking at the picture, quit looking at any reference, and just kind of go with what it gives you. You got some things in place that you can see, and you kind of gotta just kind of go with it. That makes sense to some people and it won't to others. If you haven't painted long, that won't make sense to you. But if you've been painting for a while, you realize after a while you can start seeing things develop. And if you know what you're looking for, you can take advantage of that when it happens. But that is something that comes with practice for sure. Good bit lighter here. Okay. Now having a few kind of clean lines in there in the interior part of it, it helps kind of sell that outside part being fuzzier. A couple of pretty dark clean lines in here too. Couple of spots. Yeah, some nice dark areas in here some places. Yeah. Soften that just a little. It's really not a wrong way to do this. Like I said, it's going to look like a flower, a cluster of flowers, just because it's got a bee on it. Okay, and it's a little hard to tell, but that's, you're going to have a big chunk of this covered up with a bee. All right, I'm going to get back into my dark green that I had earlier. There's some parts underneath that are pretty dark. Just make a little bit more of that real quick. Same dark green that I was using down here in the corner. trying to get it as dark as I can, because these parts underneath are, there's a few like kind of rounded pieces under here. Now, I didn't trace all this in because it really don't matter. Didn't even really try to sketch it in. Just kind of going with it. Some of it's going to be covered up. It's not detrimental to the composition of the picture. It's just got some stuff in it. The things that I did like, there are some long lines, and this is one of them. I think it said in the description of this photo that this was rosemary that this bee is sitting on. It's kind of interesting. It has kind of almost like pine needles. Yeah, they kind of have those needles that kind of stick off of it. And so it's got a few of those that are kind of dominant in here. And they add to the composition. They create some lines that are kind of going different directions that all kind of point back towards the bee. So I want to make sure I include those and maybe even add some. There's some a little bit different shades here and there. Those needles. I don't have to know what everything is on here, just adding a little here and there. There are some larger ones that come from this way. They all kind of point back in towards the subject though, and I like that. And these on this side have a lot of light on them. Put that green layer under first. Maybe even do a darker, kind of a darker bottom edge on them. These kind of have a top edge that's lighter. There is some green in the middle of here. Okay, and that. Now this side over here it is really light. Catching a lot of sunlight on that one. Just gotta kind of throw that in there. Gotta be bold and just do it. Now those up in the top. A few more kind of light ones back in here. All right. You really could put whatever you wanted underneath this. This flower could be anything. Once you put that bee on there, that's all anybody wants to see anyway. clean up my edges here a little. Like I said, the bee is kind of sitting right in here, so all of this, most of this is going to be covered up. Yeah, like that. Alright, there are some random things down here as well. Several little things here. I don't want to get too carried away down here. There's also a piece here that's got some brown in it. Still got some green in it too, but it's got some brown. That goes kind of in here. It's kind of like the stalk of it, I guess you'd say. So it's a good bit darker. This brown, this is ultramarine blue mixed with burnt umber. It's giving me this darker brown. More burnt umber than blue, but that's this stalk sticking down through here. I probably could have got away with not doing this at all, but a little extra background character ain't gonna hurt. Browner stuff down here at the bottom. By no means trying to get any detail in here, just kind of establish a light side and dark side. Okay. Just noticed in my sketch there's a few more of these lighter green petals up here, or whatever you call those, little needles. Some paint running there, make something out of that. I think I'm going to dry that and then try to just clean it up a little bit. Okay, just going to go back in and clean some up. I think these highlighted areas in here, the brighter stuff is going to be more important because this is the light side of everything, and this is going to give me some contrast. That bee has a good bit of dark in its body, and this light behind it will give some good contrast. Pretty bright light down here, and I think I'll come on down with some of that too, just lighter, because I think that's where he's going to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I need to clean that bottom up a little bit where the dark green is here. I don't want to lose all of my dark green on that one. But I need to get a little bit more highlight on it. It's more in shadow back there, so it's hidden a little bit. But it'll have a little bit of light on it. But not as bright as the other side. I'll put a little and wipe it off. That'll help. Same with that one. Do a little, take a little off. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna go a little darker with my wood at the bottom there. Just in spots to make it, break it up just a little bit. Get a little shadow under there. That part's gonna be darker, some shadow back there. This is just, this kind of thing you can get carried away and you can start stressing out about it and spend 2 hours on it if you're not careful, when it's really not that important. But I'm probably gonna just stop right there. If I put my bee in, my sketch, or even just the block in for the placeholder for the bee, and I notice there's some stuff that's not covered up by it that I need to fix, I can come back and fix that later. But I think that right there is about as much detail as I want to get in this background. So I'm going to dry this completely. Well, one more thing I'm seeing. I need to, before I do that, I need to get a little more light coming across that brown. I noticed this earlier. There's a lot more light up here than what I've got. Yeah. Just some spots here where there's some light. And there's a little bit of light that I'm missing that's down here. I'm not even sure what it's on. Some there, some here. Doesn't really matter. Just gotta put some of that light. The light coming across this bee is what really made it look good when I first noticed this picture. So all these little places where the light lands, I want to make sure I get it nice and white, nice and bright rather. Again, I can come back and add some more of that later as needed. And it will need it. It will need a good bit of it. Some of this up here needs to be a good bit lighter too. Okay. All right. I'm going to dry that and sketch in a bee. Now with that sketched in roughly, I just kind of what I do is I printed my photo the size of the canvas, and I'm just tracing it. I placed it up there, and you can call that cheating if you want to. I could try to sketch it if I wanted to, but I want to get it in the right place, so I put it up there, and I just use tracing paper. Transfer paper, and transfer that image onto the canvas with the transfer paper. And I'm painting over a lot of it right now. I did trace too much of it because the first thing I want to do is paint the whole thing white. I don't always do that, but the reason for this one is because it's got such vivid colors that I want to stand out. I want to make those right. So I'm going to start off with a lighter underpainting, a light white underneath. I'm just kind of blocking in the big shape of it. And that's going to have a lot more layers to it, but right now I just want to get it to be sort of solid. That's the first part. So by doing that with the transfer paper, my next step will be, and I had the transfer paper cut to the size of the canvas so it lines up, but now that I have this kind of whited in and I need to sketch in the details, I will cut the bee out of it. I'll just take my scissors and just kind of cut the bee out, and then I can place it exactly where I need it and tape it, and then I can use the transfer paper again underneath it to transfer those details in there. And the same way, if you're working from a sketch, you can have a sketch on paper, and things that I print or that I do from a sketch that I've just drawn, I'll draw the sketch on paper, and then I'll use it to transfer to the canvas because you have to transfer it a few different times. Anyway, I'm going to dry that, and then I'll sketch the details back in. All right, I got my bee sketched back in, and I like to, when I'm doing something like this, I like to start with just the values. So I'm going to block it in first with just values, light, dark. This is just going to be black. Of course, this is a black that I made from 50-50 blend of ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Just going to throw some of these little sections in here, and I don't really care how clean they are. I'm going to take a couple layers. I just know this is where it's the area that's dark. I'm going to kind of throw that in there, and then I'll kind of put some mid-tone grays and some lighter white type, almost white, lighter gray. And then once that's all done and dry, that underpainting rather, in values, then I can go back and color it. You don't have to do it that way. You could mix the colors, go a little at a time if you'd rather, but I think this way helps me control it a little bit better. I don't really have to think about, drawing it too much. I'm just putting the big shapes in right now. And I use this picture to kind of trace this in. I really just drew out. I try to break it down into three values: dark, light, and mid. Then start there. Put those three values in. This may not be the best brush for it, this little flat brush, but I'll go with a smaller brush here in a minute. It's just all kind of dark right there. Don't worry too much about brush strokes because this is going to be covered up. Got a little bit of a foot down here that's kind of dark. Actually, all of that's kind of dark too. I'll go ahead and clean up my edge there. Just a little. All right, I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to do the mid layer. Okay, with the dark in, I'm going to go with a sort of a gray in some of the areas where I have a sort of a mid-tone, and get a little bit of a smaller brush. And just kind of going into those places where this is pretty dark. I may do a little bit of a lighter, may break my mid-tone up into two different values this time. Some of this area down here is pretty dark, but then it gets much lighter further up. Some of that was right in here. This is kind of mid. All right, I'm going to go a good bit lighter. In here. Not worried really about brush strokes or texture or anything right now. Just blocking in these big shapes of color, or value rather. This is going to be that bright orange, yellowish orange color that looks so good. But for now, just gray. Again, this is not necessary, but it does help you see it's the values. It helps you kind of visualize a little differently where the blocks of values are going to be. You can get too wrapped up in trying to paint a bee, trying to paint the subject, and you forget to do the basic stuff first. Now, some of that on the outside is really white. So I'm going to go ahead and just get a little more gesso in that. Go even lighter. Still not pure white, so I'm going to go. It's barely not pure white though. It's got a little bit of that gray in it. And this will give me a chance to kind of blend those just a little and hide some of those real hard lines. Now it's going to have that really bright highlight side up here, up on that top ridge of that bee. Really going to be bright. This part of the wing is catching a lot of light right here too. And we'll worry about those wings later. Okay, let me get that dry. And then I think I want to put one more coat on the darkest value. All right, I did get a second coat of the dark on there, so I think I have the values where I want them. Let's look at how to mix this orange. I'm not real sure where to start on this, but I want to get this mid color here first. I think I can work from there, make it lighter, darker. So let's see. Let's set that aside real quick. Let's see what we can come up with. I think I want to start with a yellow. I got a little black in my brush still, but that should be okay. This is vermilion, really strong red. Let me see how close that is, just those two. That's giving me, that's why I like to take my printed picture here and actually just put the paint on it and see what it looks like. Now that's obviously not dark enough. I'll add a little bit of this ultramarine blue to part of it and see what that does to it. Because I feel like that's going to give me my, yeah, this color down here is about like that. It's got some of that blue in it. Since orange and blue are complementary colors, or they're opposite each other on the color wheel, adding a little bit of blue will give it its shadow color. So even though it's an ugly kind of greenish color, it's really about like what we have here. Maybe a little darker, a little more brown and blue in it. Get a little bit darker value for that bottom. Yeah, that's almost perfect for that. But my orange is kind of a little flat looking. Try to put a little bit of this magenta with it. Not much. That stuff is powerful. A little bit of the magenta. See if that'll get me a little closer to where I need to be here. Oh yeah, that's almost spot on. So that's pretty good. And I think by getting more yellow and some gesso into that, I can get that lighter edge of it as well. And then on the very edge is almost white. Okay, we'll start with those. May have to tweak them a little bit here and there, but I think that'll get me close. All right, I'm just going to start with that brightest there in the front, and you can see it's going to take some layers of this to get it to be bright enough, but that's going to give me a start. Can't really expect to get it all in the first try. Acrylics is all about the layers. I'm going to clean that up a little. You can always just put a little water on it. Paper towel. Clean it right off. Now that is looking a lot lighter now than what it was, but I want to go over, and I'm still using that same lighter color even though this area is going to be darker, just to show you what it looks like. And we could really paint over just about everything with this, a thin wash of this one color, since we have that underpainting under there. Could start with that, just give us a pretty good start. You know, even the solid black gets a little tint of that orange to it. And then because my black is more kind of solid black in the shadow side of it, I'll put a little water on that, wipe that off a little bit. That's just a quick way to do it. Didn't want to wipe off my orange, but got more layers to go. And I'm cleaning this edge up. I don't really care if it gets dirty. I can clean that up later. I'm going to have to do some more painting on the bottom of this flower anyway. It's not done. All right, I'm going to dry that, and then we'll try another layer of it. All right, let's get a little bit more of this bright orange in here. Yeah, that's much more like the color I want. But I like to kind of sneak up on it like that. I don't like to go all in at once with the color I think it's going to be. I like to kind of put a couple layers here and there, because that gentle approach will help you dial in that color and the value. A little hint down here. Pretty bright right in here. A little bit up there. A little bit right there. Okay. Nice and bright on this back side. And while that's still wet, I think I'll go into the mid now. Back to my mid tone. Try to pull some of this in with it. Do some wet blending in that just a little bit between those. The best way to do that is put both on there and then clean the brush, dry the brush, and then kind of gently work the paint between the two colors to blend it. Pretty good. Still want this to be darker. It's vivid, but it's not quite dark enough. But let me go with my, while that's drying, I'm going to go with my darker, this kind of green color in between here. And I almost got that already from just having the gray underneath and painting that orange on top of it. It's almost identical to the color that I made for it. Switch to a smaller brush here. Kind of just scrub that around a little. Now, ultimately, I want the texture of this to be kind of fuzzy anyway, so I don't really need any hard lines. Yeah, I like that. All right, hit that with a dryer one more time. And now I got my darkest orange that I was using, which was the vermilion and yellow with a touch of magenta in it. And I added a little tiny bit of blue to it to get it even darker. Let's see if I can get that to be a little more intense right through here. Yeah, I like that. Wash that off and dry it, kind of feather that out a little. Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's got that deep orange glow to it that I was looking for. A little more up in here. Tiniest amount right there. Now some of this fuzzy yellow stuff kind of shows through the black in areas, and it makes this kind of look rounded. I'm putting this on kind of thin. I got a good bit of water in this. We'll lay it on there. We'll come back and do some texturing for it later. But that little bit of orange covering up the black I'm looking for. It's pretty black towards the shadow side down here, but it's got some orange on the top. Especially kind of coming around in here. Yeah, that kind of rounds him off a little bit. A couple little spots in here where it's kind of going to come in. Gives me a softer edge. Okay, I like that for now. I'm going to hit that with a dryer real quick. All right, so now I've got some white, so almost pure gesso. I put a little tiny bit amount of yellow in it. I'm going to try to get this top edge kind of cleaned up, rounded off a little bit. It's got some shape to it. Rounded, some kind of rounded edges like that. And then it's really bright and glowing. And again, I'll just put that on. Everything underneath is dry. I'll put that highlight on, and then I can clean my brush off and kind of push it around as I need to. Wipe some off, rub some around. It would kind of let me work it a little. Let me maybe switch back to my other softer brush for that. Just kind of softening that edge. Yeah, like that. As it goes to the very edge, it's even brighter. I'm going to make sure I get it nice and clean on the edge there. Now we're going to fuzz that up a little bit and put some little hairs, little fuzzy stuff here in a minute. I just want to make sure that I get it bright enough on that outside edge. It's pretty bright. Okay. Got a little glow to it. Bring that up a little. Just doing some finger painting here too while I'm at it. Okay. We'll dry that, and then we can do some hair texture to it. Now that it's dry, I think I want to put a little bit of a thin yellow wash over some of that white that I just put in there. Just some of it. Yeah, see how that does? I'm going to leave it good and white up towards the top, but just kind of colorizing that a little. And I don't care that it goes over my other colors a little too. This is so watery that it's going to almost disappear when it dries. That's okay. That's what I want. But I do want to come back and clean the brush and kind of clean off some of this on the black, some of the darkest where I don't want it. Just takes a lot of back and forth and layers of this kind of stuff. And that is paper towel. Nice and dark at the bottom. I like that. Now we get a really small, this is just a tiny little detail brush, liner brush. And you don't have to paint every hair on here. What I'm going to do is get some of that really bright, and I hope I can get to it good enough to do this. If I wasn't recording this, I'd have this canvas where I could flip it over and hold it in my lap or whatever I need to do to get it to the right angle. But I've got my lightest color here, and I just want to give a couple of little indications. And I want to kind of roll it on my palette to a point, get it as sharp as possible. And I just want to give a couple of little indications of kind of hair in here. Just spots. You don't have to do all of it. You can do just a little here and there, and it makes it look like you've done a lot. This is just the lightest color. I'm kind of bringing that down over the edge of this other colors just a little. right out here towards the edge. This has got to be covered a little better, but that's pretty bright right there. Don't know if this is really showing up good in the video, but got a pretty good bit of water on here. I'm just kind of giving a few little indicators. There's a lot of them up here towards the top. Let me see if I can get a good enough angle on that. Yeah, that's good. And that contrast in front of the darker part in front of it really helps it stand out some. As that brush starts to run out of paint, it makes an even finer line, which works even better. That worked. So now I'm going to come back with the darker orange with that same little brush. Lots of water. And the same thing, I'll do a few of them darker, just mainly in the middle of the light ones. You let a few of those kind of stand up in there. Up here, the darker areas. That canvas texture will give you some of it too. You can always kind of tap around on it. All right, I like that. I like that. I think that's working. Let me get a little bit more up here. This is where I can kind of tweak my colors a little bit with texture as I'm going. And you really can do as little or as much of this as you want. I kind of like the idea of having this part of him have more detail, a little bit of fine detail here and there because the background is so blurry. So I like that. But I don't think I'm gonna do too much more. I think my black through all these layers has lost some intensity. I think what I want to do while I got this little brush is get some more black. Just make up a little more here because I think it dried on me. And make sure that I'm good and black down in the darkest parts down here. Just the darkest areas. Kind of got a little point that it comes to right there. Yeah, intensifying that shadow side a little. That helps. Especially in here. You just kind of got to go back and forth. A little light, a little dark. What does it need, you know? What am I missing? And you might even get a few little dark hairs if you can see them. That ain't really showing up too good. It's okay. And while I'm in that dark, I'll go ahead and add these antennas here, or whatever those things are. I don't know. You can call them something wrong. Somewhere out there, there's a honeybee expert that'll tell me what that's called. That kind of comes into an area that's got some darker stuff sticking up there. Yeah. All right, and while I'm in that, go ahead and put this wing. There's a few pieces of this wing that are visible and some that are not. That paint's too thin. Let me get that off and try again. A little water on that. These wings are, pretty see-through. I'm gonna paint those in with a wash in a minute, but I just want to get these sort of veins or whatever they are first. That top edge is pretty visible. It's got a little bit of a browner tint to it. And there's a lot of little wispy veins going through there, but I think I'll try to put those in at the end. This one's kind of right here. Not a whole lot to that. Just a little line mostly. Another one kind of right there. All right, and also while we're in those colors, those darker colors, you may want to get a little bigger brush. He's got his little back foot there. Or, again, I don't know what that's called. This thing. Sticking off back here. Now it's got some highlights to it. So I'm going to put just a shadow side on it real quick. I don't want to get into my fuzz too much. But it's got a pretty good bit of orange to it. So go ahead and just do it like that. That one's got a little bit of orange on it too. And our little antenna things on the head are probably dry enough now to get a little bit of a highlight. And this one has a good bit of highlight to it. All of that stuff right in there does. And just kind of painting what I see at this point. Here and there, I don't really know what's what, but if I get close, it'll look right. All right, I'm going to blow dry that really quick, and then I think I need to fix the rest of the flower underneath before I put the wings on, because they're going to be see-through. Let me hit it with a blow dryer real quick. Okay. I didn't want too much detail down here, but some of this is just not covered good. I'll just do a little bit more of this, and I don't know, the picture's different, but this area has some pieces that are just kind of blurry. It's fine, I don't need to have too much detail to it. Just need to fix it a little bit. I don't know what this is supposed to really look like. This planet, like I said in the picture, it's really blurry. I'm just going to go with it. Let's see what it does. It's got these kind of round pieces on here. Get a little bit more yellow so it'll stand out a little bit more with that. Kind of match my bee a little bit more. darker. Okay. Alright, I think that's probably good enough. I don't want to have detail. Just wanted to cover up that weird spot. This background stuff is still pretty abstract, which I wanted. That's what I wanted. I do think I need to get a little more highlight on that. I knew when I was doing it, I'd have to wait till I got the rest of it in to see, but I think I do need to go a little lighter on the highlight parts of this, just to balance it with the rest of the picture. Some of these up here too, and this is just some light color that I have mixed up on the palette. It's not even exactly a color, just a lighter value. Just gonna add a little more light to make everything kind of center. Okay, now those wings are sort of an amber color. I'm just going to go with some of my ultramarine blue and burnt umber, but more towards the burnt umber. It's going to be a lot more towards the brown. And I don't want gesso in there because I need this to be completely see-through. That gesso is it makes kind of a chalky texture. Maybe put some of my orange in there with that just to, yeah, I think that'll work. Color not going to be as important, but it is very thin. And I'm just going to kind of throw that on there. And let it be see-through. Now, while it's wet, I think I can take this palette knife and kind of scratch in it some. Maybe get some of those little veins in there. Just a little. We'll come back and put some more of that if we need to. Now, this one kind of covers part of the body too, right in here. Like that. Get some of that paint off the brush. See if I can pull some of this off of here. It's very thin. Very see-through. And I don't know if this will show up on here or not, but I'm going to get some of that in there too. All right. That looks pretty cool. Let's see if I can get a little bit more definition on the bottom of that wing. Well, figure out where the bottom is first. It kind of comes down this way. Guess it's really not clearly defined in the picture. It kind of disappears. Come back with my little detail brush and give it a little more definition this way. Yeah. Has a little bit of like an indentation right there. And this is also when I can put some of these little thin veins in here while it's still kind of wet. think I need too much on that one. All right. We'll get a little more highlight on this back edge here. And get some of that orange. I'm losing all my colors here. They're kind of running together. But this has a pretty bright highlight on that side. And it's kind of fuzzy. It's kind of down here. Okay. Now it's just a matter of looking to see where we need little details, little highlights and shadows, little bitty things. I think I can get a little bit more highlight in here even. Yeah, tint that a little more yellow because it looks a little more natural that way. I think that looks pretty good. I don't know. Looking at it now, I don't know if I see anything else. I've got one little highlight area here that I missed. Pretty bright highlight right in there. It seemed to be part of that wing somehow. That's a little too bright. Yeah, I may not do that. Yeah, that's better. Looks more like a light. More like a highlight anyway. After that wing. This is the really bright stuff up here. Now this is where I might even use some titanium white. It's not pure white though in the picture, so I may not do that, but sometimes at the very end I like to use a little, titanium white to get it really bright. Most of the time I use gesso as white because I like how it blends with the paint and how it makes the paint act. But that would be the time to do it at the very end like that. I think if I keep going, I'm gonna mess it up. So I think I'm gonna stop right there. I don't know. That's the background's blurry, but I like that. Kind of abstract. Got a little more detail on the bee. I think I'm gonna call that done. I appreciate you painting this with me and watching. I'm gonna put the picture in the description. Of course, if you will, like and subscribe and watch the rest of my videos. I appreciate it.